So I just also finished updating my Spiritborn guides. So I did Crushing Hand, Stinger, and Quill Volley. But I mean, we have a lot more here. We actually have 11 endgame guides now. We got 2 new ones, Toxic Skin and Razor Wings, that Chronix wrote, I've reviewed, and then like lots of the updated stuff here. One thing that we didn't get done now, since we had like a kind of like last minute orphaned guide, is Payback right now. That is hopefully getting updated soon. And we archived Soar. So this is an archive now, because Soar is kind of just like a wacky evade build. But yeah, overall, Spiritborn is looking fine. Of course, much weaker than before, because they fixed all of the bugs, making it like 10,000 times or so stronger than before, depending on how high-end your gear was. With less high-end gear, it wasn't so noticeable, but still crazy. I mean, basically all of the builds I would say are probably going to reach 100 plus relatively comfortable. Maybe with the exception of something like Thrash, which is, I think, the weakest here on the Spiritborn. And then there's the Capileke nerf, that obviously hurts a lot of builds, so Quill Volley is one of them. I spent a long time actually trying to figure out, am I gonna replace Capileke now? I'm gonna put a legendary item, but in the end I decided to stick to this because it just has so much utility, confidence, damage, and it just kind of solves so many problems at once. So we went with that, and in fact it has actually gotten easier now to get the Capileke combo online with the Midnight Sun Ring. So if you have played Spiritborn before, then you might know that you need to hit like a certain resource generation breakpoint in order to have full resources on every attack, getting the Capileke proc every single time. And in this case, yeah, we got vigorous ranks now. So you got 5 here on an ancestral weapon when it's upgraded. And this is the passive that gives you extra resource generation. And this makes it much easier now to actually hit this 100% resource generation breakpoint. You don't actually need any resource generation temper. You don't even need Yen's Blessing. So this could be Rakanov, this could be normal boots if you really want. Yeah, you have so many ranks now, so this makes it very nice and smooth. So even very early on, I can get this combo online, or I can have like a really bad Midnight Sun Ring, and you're still okay. So you can look forward to that. It's much easier to get this online now. Other than that, I mean, the setup didn't really change fundamentally. I added most of the important witch powers, mostly like extra damage, extra attack speed, some nice stuff there. One thing that's pretty important for pretty much all builds is Soul Harvest, especially in pit runs. So this works in the way that you make a large pull at the start of the run, then you press any cooldown, and then you get this a primary stat buff, and you can carry forward the amount of stacks that you got from the largest pull in the run all the way to the end. So this is something to keep in mind. So at the start, you always want to make like a massive pull, get like 50 stacks, and then you get 50% primary stat. So that's like a huge damage bonus for not just the Spiritborn, for anyone. Other than that, I mean, I did make many little tweaks. For example, barrier generation is not as important as it used to be. I still usually kept like Earthen Bulwark in here because it's just nice defense, plus it gives Viscous Shield. But it's not like absolutely required to hit 100% shield all the time anymore for Viscous Shield because the bug is gone. So usually there was like this problem in Season 6 where with the Viscous Shield bug giving you ridiculous amounts of damage, even just losing 10% of your barrier would just make you deal no damage anymore at all. So this is gone. Now it's like much more consistent and smoothed out, and you don't actually have to go all in on barrier generation. So for example, you're back to Emeralds here, and you're still like well protected. Other than that, for example, I also went back to not having Jaguar main hall. I have Gorilla main hall. This makes it very tanky. And I mean, this is similar for the other Spiritborn builds as well. Like I changed some of these Spirit halls around a little bit. So if you look at Crushing Hand or Stinger, so they look like this here. Stinger has also Gorilla primary. This makes it very easy also to get unyielding hits, armor stacking shenanigans. All of the overpower builds I removed, for example. So people used to play like this overpower Quill Volley, overpower Crushing Hand with Banished Lords. That has become a lot more difficult now. Number one, because resources are just not that valuable anymore, like the maximum resource stacking, because Capileke is nerfed. You don't get less extra damage from having more maximum resources. And also they fixed the bug where Banished Lord's Talisman would more easily proc because it added the base cost of the skill to your resources spent. So basically you actually have to hit 275 maximum now. And previously it was like 240 or 235 or something like this, depending on the skill. So it was way easier to reach the 275 breakpoint for Banished Lord. So TLDR, it's just armor stacking, no overpower. Capileke remains. I will probably experiment and see no Capileke setups, but I did that on a PR a little bit already and it didn't really feel great. So it's just kind of like, you lose so many nice little things that Capileke brings. There's also other stuff like you have Prodigy's Tempo, you don't get the extra skill ranks, you don't get so much cooldown recovery and so on. So that's a bit annoying if you don't have Capileke. I also went back to Harmony. So you go 3 different tags. In the case of Crushing Hand, for example, you have Centipede, Jaguar, Gorilla from the skill. And for example, for Quill Volley, we have Gorilla, Jaguar, Eagle from the skill, and so on. So Harmony is just really powerful, 90% damage buff. Get a bunch of stuff here, and basically no mythics helms here. So we have the Shroud of False Death. That is like the main mythic for most of the builds. Stinger also has stuff like Stardust, for example, very powerful, but this is kind of situational depending on the build. There's also like some other stuff here that some builds work a bit differently. So if you look at, for example, Razor Wings, Toxic Skin, they're very different. We have also the Thorns builds here with Rock Splitter. Where's that? So we have that. Touch of Death. Evade. So Evade hasn't really changed much. One thing to note here though is Seeker. Seeker has gotten a huge upgrade to now scale with crit and vuln damage. And this is actually legit. So for builds that already scale crit damage or don't really have anything else to scale, you can just add a Seeker. And I think for pushing scenarios, this might be really valuable. And it's actually pumping. I tried it on PTR. It was pretty good. So for like Noxious Resonance builds, I was thinking about, for example, putting it into like the Stinger push setup instead of the Hunter, for example. I will test this out a little bit more and see if that's actually better. Hunter is just really nice. But Seeker is certainly an actual DPS option now. And in stuff like Evade, for example, this really helps to just blast down elites. You just like evade around, kill everything, and then you pump the Seeker every few seconds on like an elite pack or something. And that's pretty good. But yeah, Evade is going to remain like insane speed farming build. We have Touch of Death here. The Chronix updated that. We discussed it a little bit. It has a new weapon. I'm kind of excited to see the actual performance of this, but otherwise works somewhat similarly to before. Thorns got some nice upgrades. We got Centipede, primary hull that now poisons, so this makes the poison application with the 100% extra Thorns damage from Toxic Skin much easier. You just kind of get it by default, so that's really nice. So these builds are going to be much more smooth and probably much closer to, for example, the Capelec builds. Thrash, quite excited to see this in action. Just like a nice little basic attack build, but I guess somewhat on the weaker side for the Spiritborn. And yeah, I mean, this is kind of like everything you need to know, I guess, when it comes to the class right now. Of course, there's like more details with like the witch powers. I guess you can go through that. I talked about Soul Harvest. I really like Breath of the Coven as well, so I put that in basically all of my builds as well. I see that here we have it in Razor Wings as well. And then, for example, auras, there's like Aura of Misfortune, Aura Specialization, especially Calculate builds. They really like this with the extra crit damage. It says plus 35%, but on the PTR it was multiplicative. And also if that was actually additive, it would be literally nothing. So I do expect this to be a multiplicative damage boost, just as it should be, I guess. And this is going to be very powerful for the crit builds at least. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much about it here. So other than that, I guess you just need to know that, all the bugs are gone. So the whole like Phil Soothsayer shenanigans, all the like life stacking to 30,000 life is gone because that boosted the Viscous Shield to like infinity. So the class is overall a lot more consistent now. You don't have this insane gap between like the super decked out characters and the less decked out characters because of no double dipping and triple dipping on all of the stats. So you actually have like a much more smoothed out progression. But I guess Spiritborn is going to remain like extremely fast, fun, versatile. I'm going to start with Rogue and then make a Spiritborn right after, I think, trying out some of the builds again. Toxic Skin is blasting. A Toxic Skin is going to be a very fast build for sure. So just rushing claw around, everything explodes. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to Stinger. I really like Stinger. I played a lot in Season 6, even though it was kind of like middle of the pack, I guess. And that was cool. I like the hammered-in playstyle, basically, that this produces. If you're wondering about the riffing moon buff, I decided to not include it, so I kind of kept the setup relatively similar to before. Maybe for speed farming this is like a thing, but I will try this first. But for like pushing, I don't think this is really gonna be like, feeling like strong enough. And also not 100% sure if the double damage actually works for the poison that comes out of the Pestilence Swarms. But yeah, I guess this sums it up here.